Hello, my name's Will and I work for Quell. And what I do is I talk a lot around the subject of workplace violence. Now, incorporated with that, you have personal safety and lone working. And what I've been doing over the past 3 to 4 months is I've been asking a lot of my clients and my followers to give me ideas of videos that perhaps would be of interest to them. And I've had quite a few recommendations over the past few months. Before I get on to the one that I'm going to do today is I've actually been getting more equipment being sent to me, and over the next few weeks I'll make little videos of them and I'll put them to you. Like for instance, I've had a bit more equipment sent to me from clients in relation to personal safety equipment for the car and said to me, what do I think of these things? And it is interesting because the reason being is personal safety and also lone working can actually become a little bit of a taboo subject or a bit complacent for most people, because the way we're going through our own personal safety recently has changed immensely because of the pandemic. It's same as I get lone working devices or apps and asked will I review them and will I, shall we say, recommend them for my clients. So today's video, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about home visits. Now, I've been working in the housing and care sector for about 16 years, and I've seen it evolve a lot from when I first started. I've seen more housing officers, I've seen more tenancies, I've seen organisations that I used to deal with that started at around about probably 12 to 16 staff and now up to nearly 200. And it's immensely changing as obviously the current pandemic's going, and obviously due to finances and people's, shall we say, social standing. So what I want you to think about is, if you do home visits, well, do you treat it seriously enough? Let's have a think about it. So home visits, right, what should we consider? Well, I usually ask an open question to my attendees, and I always say to them, you know them houses or them apartments that you've been visiting over the years, do you actually know what's behind them? And they do chuckle, one or two do chuckle at me and they think, what are you on about? And I said, well, have you ever walked round the back of them? Have you ever seen what's round the back of them? Have you ever know what's within that area? And some of them have honestly said, well, not really, because we just pull up, we get out and we walk in, we do the job and we walk out and everything's fine and we drive off. And that's fine. But I also have a joke with people. I say, look, lone working personal safety is a very serious subject. We all have to agree on that. I mean, when I've had to deal or look at incidents that have happened, it is quite scary because some of them could have really been dealt with by a bit of common sense. But I do say to people, look, when you're visiting a location, whoever the tenants or tenancy, or even if it's just a visit, it might not even be anything to do with the housing and care sector, as an example. Do you actually look around the area? Do you actually, shall we say, ascertain if there's any areas of concern? Just a thought. Now also, when you've had a look around the area, have you made sure you've told somebody where you are? Have you exactly put the address into your shared calendar, or have you exactly informed your colleague of where you're actually going to be? See, when you go into a, shall we say, a premises to do a home visit and you subconsciously know that somebody actually knows exactly where you are, well, your subconscious lets you know, well, yeah, everything is going to be okay. i.e. gives you that confidence to actually deal with the situation. There's nothing worse than nobody knowing where you are and you having an incident. So just think to yourself, have you exactly told somebody where you are? Have we remembered to inform somebody that we're actually going into this meeting, and obviously any risks that we're actually concerned about? When we approach the door, are we happy with, shall we say, the location of where we are? In that context of there's no obstructions before you even go near the front door, i.e. if you're going upstairs, there's no instructions on the stairs, or if you're using a lift, is the lift very slow? All these things you need to take into consideration for your own personal safety. When you go up to the door, do you remember to knock the door and stand slightly back, just in case someone opens the door and lashes out at the front? All these things have got to be taken into consideration. When the actual person opens the door that you're actually visiting, make sure you do a good introduction, a good, confident introduction, and make sure, if it's not already clearly defined, what you're there for the visit for. There's nothing worse than going into a meeting and the person you're meeting has a, shall we say, a different opinion of what you're there for. If you're with somebody else, make sure you introduce them and the reason that they're there for as well. When you enter into the actual premises, make sure you watch what the locking system's like. Is it a Yale lock system? Is it a bolt locking system? Do they take the key out? Like on UPVC doors, I've seen many times people lock the door from the inside, take the key out and put the key in their pocket. Little things like this are important to know. When you move into the area of where you're going to actually do this little type of meeting for this home visit, have you made sure that you've took a quick look around? Make sure there's no obstacles in the corridor. When you go into actual living room or the dining room, what is the position of the room? If you're not happy where they're sitting, perhaps suggest, can you come and sit by, shall we say, the dining room table? What I encourage my attendees to do is to say to things like, oh, are you on your own today? In a nice way, not a creepy way. And why, when you say that, is that high percentage of times people say, oh, such a body is in the other room, such a body's upstairs, or such a body's coming around. Again, assessing that situation as you continually go on. When you sit down in the position you're happy because you know you've got a clear exit if a situation develops, you only take out what you need, the equipment-wise. You make sure that your phone is close to hand. You make sure, even if necessary, you think there's a higher risk, you've got your keys to hand. All these things you should be thinking about, the what if something goes wrong. If you sat there and you're actually working away with the actual person that you're visiting, and let's say a third party or somebody else enters into the room and starts to cause a situation, or in fact the situation that you're actually dealing with a tenant is, shall we say, becoming a bit, shall we say, awkward or uncomfortable, have you already thought of your plausible excuse? That means the idea in your head that you can use to say, for instance, hint or indicate that you've got something else to do. Like, there's many tricks out there. There's so many different trainers in this environment. They've got so many different ideas. There's a vast selection. But what I always say is to people and my attendees is you should pick a plausible excuse that you believe when you say it will work. I've come up with ideas in the past of going in with two folders, like I do with meetings. Go in with two folders. One actually has nothing in it that's of any concern. And when you've got in that meeting, and let's say you're on that home visit and you're chatting away and it's not getting right and you think, I need a bit of a breather, or I need to make a call to get a colleague to call me back, you could possibly say, I do apologise, I've brought the wrong folder here, let me go and get my other folder out of the car. And that means one of the folders that you've actually brought in actually has nothing relevant in it, no data protection or anything relevant in that folder, so it can leave it there. And you take the other one, you leave, and then you make your decision. Because that person, if they see that folder there, will believe you're coming back. Or an old one that I learnt from some social workers was, what they used to do was they used to put on their phone, on their alarm clock, their ringtone. And that meant that when they went in to, shall we, the visit, they set the timer or the alarm clock for 15 minutes. And as they're having the meeting, the alarm would go off, which was the ringtone. If they were 100% unhappy, they would say they'd have to take the call urgently, or they would hit the snooze button if they weren't too sure, and then again react when the snooze button has gone through its cycle, or the last one would be just to stop it because they were happy. Plausible excuses come in many forms. People say they've got an urgent appointment, or they have to leave, or they've got an issue. There's many. It's down to you to think of your own one that is, shall we say, that you believe that you could use realistically in that situation. One tip I always say though, if you're ever going to use the phone trick, don't pretend to talk to somebody. What I mean is, when the phone rings, don't pretend to take the call and start talking to yourself, because people do catch people out for doing that. And that's not funny. Again, when you're in the room, making sure that you're consistently carrying out an assessment. If there's animals in the room, or there's children in the room, or you just feel uncomfortable, think to yourself, whose safety is paramount? I'm hoping you'll say yourself. And then, at that moment, when you're happy and you've exited, think to yourself, did that meeting go well? Is there anything that I should record or even report to my line manager about, i.e. the behaviour, the form of communication? All these little things help, because remember, you're on your own. And when you're on your own, your heightened risks and your heightened feelings can, shall we say, work in a different manner. But you've also always got to say to yourself before you enter into them premises, if something goes wrong, how can I get out of that building as safely as possible? Thank you for watching. Take care whatever you're doing. I plan on making more videos on your recommendations. And bye for now.